In this podcast episode, Peter Levenda shares his wide-ranging insights on a dense nexus of topics, including occult practices, shadowy historical connections involving Nazis and intelligence agencies, UFO phenomena, secret societies, mind control programs, and contemporary scandals like the Epstein case. Levenda weaves together personal anecdotes, historical research, and cultural analysis to explore how politics, religion, science, and covert operations intertwine in disturbing and significant ways. Peter Levenda traces the origins of his deep involvement in occult and conspiratorial history back to his Bronx upbringing during the Cold War era, a time marked by religious fervor and pervasive fear of communism. As a teenager avoiding the Vietnam draft, Levenda and friends created a legally incorporated fictitious church to obtain ministerial deferments. This experience unexpectedly thrust them into the orbit of a shadowy Orthodox church, connected to intelligence operations and notable figures tied to the Kennedy assassination. Levenda recalls how his youthful, brassing it out approach allowed him to infiltrate closed ceremonies and glimpse a world of covert clerical ordinations with significant political and espionage links. Levenda highlights the complex role that religious institutions, especially Orthodox churches in America, played during the Cold War as cover and conduits for intelligence activities. He elucidates how churches with deep ethnic and national roots, whether Russian, Ukrainian, or other, became battlegrounds not only of faith, but of spycraft. The intimate relationship between religion and politics was exemplified by figures like J. Edgar Hoover and others, as well as high-profile connections to national security efforts. The manipulation of religious symbolism, fear, and belief systems was a crucial factor in covert psychological operations domestically and abroad. Levenda discusses his research into the extensive entanglement of occult influence, political intrigue, and intelligence operations surrounding the assassination of JFK. Intriguingly, he reveals connections between people like Ruth Payne, who housed Lee Harvey Oswald's family, and Andrei Puharich, a figure deeply involved in psychic research and paranormal experimentation, sponsored by military and intelligence sectors. This web expands to include figures portrayed in the JFK film, covert churches involved in clandestine activities, and shadowy operations involving biological experimentation with cancer-inducing viruses targeting political adversaries. Levenda's insights illuminate how deeply occult and intelligence elements pervaded the era's most consequential events. Delving into the paranormal, Levenda explains how intelligence agencies funded and exploited occult practices, psychic phenomena, and experimental science in attempts to weaponize extrasensory perception, ESP, remote viewing, and telepathic abilities, activities spearheaded by people like Andrei Puharich. He discusses seance experiments with the Nine, a supposed alien presence connected to psychic phenomena and mind control projects, clarifying how these intersected with government research at military sites like Edgewood Arsenal. Briefly, Levenda touches on the cultural resurgence of substances like Amanita muscaria, noting the dangers of synthetic imitations and the importance of trusted sources. He shares his personal endorsement of a reputable supplier and the containing effects of these psychedelics in managing stress and chaos, connecting these substances indirectly to the broader occult context. Peter Levenda discusses the power of symbols, flags, crosses, swastikas in shaping political and emotional responses, and how the convergence of religion and politics leverages these to manipulate populations. He notes Silicon Valley's embrace of religious symbolism for influence, acknowledging the simplicity and emotional impact of faith-based narratives compared to political discourse. Occultism's deep cipher of symbols, memes, and emotional allegiances has blended with modern digital culture to create potent cultural mechanisms. Levenda elaborates on Ruth Payne's central role in the assassination milieu as a Quaker linked to a network of occult and intelligence figures. He reveals her ties to the Bell helicopter legacy and the intersections with Alan Dulles' circle, amplifying the complex familial and espionage relationships that surround Oswald and his movements. These relationships further tie to wider occult groups and secret knowledge that blurred the lines between political dissidents, intelligence operatives, and covert spiritual agendas. Addressing historical disease research controversies, Levenda discusses the polio vaccine development and dark experiments involving monkey viruses that supposedly caused turbo cancer. He recounts stories implicating figures like David Ferrie and Mary Sherman in clandestine labs, possibly connected to covert biological warfare programs aimed at political targets such as Fidel Castro. Levenda recounts the 1947 Puget Sound incident involving Fred Chrisman, predating Roswell, where a flying saucer in distress showered their boat with shrapnel. He links Chrisman and Guy Bannister, an FBI agent reporting on UFOs, to JFK assassination investigations, illustrating how UFO phenomena and intelligence agencies often intersected. The disappearance of debris and related deaths indicates active government concealment of these incidents. Digging deeper into church involvement, Levenda explains how churches provided cover for intelligence operatives across the globe, including consecrated bishops sent on covert missions to countries embroiled in conflict. These religious figures were sometimes mere tokens or operatives with hidden agendas, reflecting the deep integration of spiritual systems with political and espionage objectives. Highlighting the darkest corners of Cold War experimentation, Levenda explores CIA mind control programs such as Bluebird and Artichoke, which sought to manipulate and erase memories, coerce behaviors, and program agents. He details the horrific abuse documented in secret facilities in places like Montreal, showing that mind control was more than a myth, but a strategic effort that continues to have legal and cultural repercussions today. Levenda notes the recent revival of evangelical Christianity within Silicon Valley and political spheres, seeing it as a strategic move to sway populations more effectively than rational debate. He critiques the simple messaging of religion that makes it a powerful, if potentially dangerous tool for political manipulation, often facilitated through symbolism and emotional engagement. He separates popular myths from reality regarding Satanism and occult groups. While acknowledging flamboyant figures like Anton LaVey and Michael Aquino, Levenda emphasizes the philosophical and contrarian nature of modern Satanism, detached largely from traditional biblical devil imagery. He stresses that many supposed secret societies are disorganized or more performative than conspiratorial, cautioning against simplistic narratives of sinister, all-powerful cults. Levenda discusses Aquino's career, from Temple of Set founder to military intelligence officer involved in Vietnam's Phoenix program, and the controversies around allegations of ritual abuse. He highlights Aquino's materialistic skepticism of paranormal phenomena despite his occult affiliations, and notes the blurred lines between intelligence operations, psychological warfare, and occultism within military contexts. Turning to contemporary scandal, Levenda comments on Jeffrey Epstein's fascination with the occult and esoteric symbolism, linking it with political and financial power networks. He analyzes claims and misinterpretations around Epstein's finances, pointing to how symbolic language often gets distorted in public discourse. Levenda draws parallels between Epstein's island architecture and occult imagery found in films like The Magus, suggesting a broader cultural and symbolic framework underpinning such elite spaces. Levenda philosophizes on modern challenges posed by the internet, AI-generated content, and information glut, warning of collective spiritual unpreparedness. He argues that the proliferation of synthetic realities erodes discernment and empathy, making society vulnerable to manipulation, conspiracy, and existential confusion. Governance struggles with technologically sophisticated misinformation, contrast with eager tech elites who seek to control or dissolve traditional governmental power. Clarifying misconceptions on Satanism, Levenda discusses the relatively recent Christian construction of Satan as an epitome of evil, contrasting it with pagan and earlier monotheistic traditions. He details how biblical texts support a complex layering of sacrifice, demonology, and religious symbolism, noting the symbolic transformations over centuries. This historical context complicates modern narratives about secret satanic worship and rituals. Levenda connects occultism with American religious movements such as Mormonism and Scientology, underscoring how magical traditions, ritual magic, and science fiction blended in these belief systems. He recounts Hubbard's ties to occult figure Aleister Crowley and the ways Scientology tried to merge spiritual ideas with scientific explanations of the mind, influencing intelligence and remote viewing programs. Levenda presents detailed research into SS expeditions to Tibet under Himmler's command, Nazi anthropological obsession with Aryan origins, and the sinister use of concentration camp victims for anatomical research, all pointing to active Nazi occultism deeply intertwined with intelligence services. He recounts the persistence of Nazi networks post-World War II, their links to South America and Indonesia, and the clandestine movement of Nazi scientists and gold, illustrating a widespread global underground. Levenda challenges official accounts of Hitler's death, presenting evidence and eyewitness accounts suggesting Hitler may have escaped, possibly to Indonesia, supported by forensic analyses and archival documents. He details Nazi war criminal Hans Rudel's dual roles as aviator and protector of escapees, emphasizing ongoing mysteries about Nazi survival beyond 1945. Levenda explores the tension within UFO research between believers who see them as demonic and government factions wrestling with disclosure. He highlights the Christian nationalist resistance to UFO acknowledgement, pointing to high-level debates on whether UFO phenomena are adversarial spiritual entities or advanced technology, and the government's dilemma in controlling or explaining the sky's unknown occupants. Discussing cases such as the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, Levenda notes the blend of alien and Nazi imagery and possible psychological and government experimentation influences. He argues for approaching UFO phenomena through consciousness studies, suggesting that human minds might be receptacles or entry points for these mysterious events. The intangible, perception-based nature of UFO encounters challenges traditional investigative methods and hints at deeper layers beyond physical craft. Levenda touches on Whitley Strieber's complex UFO abduction narratives, his ties to military experimentation, and the sinister Finders cult, a CIA-linked group involved in child abduction and ritual abuse investigations that were mysteriously suppressed. He suggests these are extensions of ongoing mind control and behavioral programs rooted in MKUltra, showing a continuum from secret government projects to modern conspiracy milieus. Levenda details how MKUltra and related programs sought to weaponize mind control, describing how financial records exposed some projects while core operations remained buried. He contextualizes these within the broader landscape of intelligence abuses from post-World War II to the 1970s, marked by rampant covert operations against enemies real and imagined, and culminating in public backlash and reform efforts. Discussing recent Pentagon disclosures and public fascination with UFOs' drone phenomena, Levenda acknowledges the increasing complexity of identifying these occurrences amid secret military programs and potential extraterrestrial influences. He stresses humanity's growing technological fusion risks merging with these phenomena, forcing confrontations with unknown realities and the necessity of integrating consciousness into any genuine understanding. Peter Levenda underscores that true understanding of occult and conspiratorial subjects demands dedicated practice, personal experience, and deprogramming beyond merely reading texts. He emphasizes the erosion of direct human experience in technological society, lamenting disconnection fostered by mediated realities, and advocating for practical engagement with spiritual disciplines to reclaim discernment and counter deception. Levenda promotes his books, particularly the newly reissued Sinister Forces, which delve deeply into many of these themes, including Manson, Jonestown, and the Assassination conspiracies. He invites continued dialogue and investigation into the complex forces shaping history and contemporary society, from the occult, intelligence, and hidden realms.